Well, thanks you all for coming this evening. Which one of you young people would like to start off with a pressing question?
How much has our world changed since you guys were as young as we were?
A lot. You know, whenever we were growing up and everything, we didn't have what you have today. And I guess if we had it back then, we'd be wondering what in the world it was. But today's life for you young people is totally different.
Oh, absolutely.
It's totally.
I grew up with no electricity, no running water. We had an outhouse. And being the youngest one, just in a wash tub type metal thing, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, now don't ask me why. I'm the baby, I should have taken a bath first. But my daddy took a bath in that water. My mother took a bath in that water. My oldest sister took a bath in that water. My brother, and I was last to take a bath in that dirty water.
And I think every time, whenever they got
Used
through...
the same water.
Oh, did y'all?
Oh, we used the same water. I didn't grow up with telephones, and I remember my first time that my parents got a telephone, my mother was fluent in her language. She had a broken English, and the phone rang, and she just panicked. She didn't know what was going on. I said, Mama, that's the phone ringing. She goes, oh, and she ran, and she goes, hello? 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 And finally, they said they wanted to talk to my dad. She said, just a minute. She hung up the phone and goes and gets my dad. And she said, Daddy, there's a man wanting to talk to you on the phone. He gets there and the phone's hung up. Because that was our first experience with a telephone. And then television.
We didn't have TV, but we'd go to Stella Norman. We went to her house, and they always watched boxing.
It was a lot of
You're
fun
trek
watching
across
the box.
town, you know. Good.
Well, Tully, what do you want to ask?
What's the funniest moment y'all remember as a kid?
There were so many funny moments. I used to go noodling with my brother.
Oh, my goodness.
One time, I put my hand in there, and guess what? There wasn't no catfish in there. Guess what it was?
Turtle?
No, it was a snake. And I screamed bloody murder, and I ran from that creek all the way to the house, and my mother found out I was noodling with my brother, and he got a whipping with my daddy's leather belt. And then after that, though, I thought it's funny he got a whipping, but then I didn't ever get to go. I didn't get to go noodling anymore with him. That ended that.
Where'd you go to school at?
I went to school at Pontotoc, Little Pontotoc, until they consolidated with McLeish. And then I went to Haskell, graduated from Haskell. I don't want to tell the rest of the story. That's where I get married.
That ended the story.
That ended the story right there.
So the Chickasaw Princess Pageant has been active since 1963 when, is it Rennell James? Rennell James won the first one. And it's still active as it is today because me and LaKayla are both representing. So was it as big, like was our culture, did it spread as huge as it was today?
It's bigger.
It's bigger.
It's bigger.
Yeah.
The most ever known was there was just a little over 300 people. So it grew from that, from where City Chapel is now, and how big that ground is. It grew from that to where it's at today.
That's right. That's right.
And I remember my grandmother and Stella Norman and Frances Carter. They would get out there with those big old pots and cook the pashofa for those
yeah.
meetings.
There were like 8 pots
they
of
had the
pashofa.
food.
Yeah.
Like 8 black pots of pashofa to
Yeah.
feed everybody. I
I remember that. I might have been just a kid, but you know, even though you're a kid, you notice a bunch of stuff when you're running around in places like that. Because whenever I was growing up, and most of the time, I was always on a church ground, it seems like, with my grandma. My grandma was Sarah Alexander, and she was a full-blood Chickasaw. And where we used to go church at was over there at Sealy Chapel at that time. And Sealy Chapel, if you've seen it, it's a big old church ground. And what I remember is they used to have big old pots of pashofa cooking, because that's how many people we would have there at the church ground, because it was like an all-week thing during Bible school. Bible school during the day, church at night.
Revival at night.
Uh-huh. It was good. I always thought that was a good time.
I want my granddaughter and grandson to always remember their roots, their Chickasaw heritage that they are growing up with today. I don't ever want them to forget where they came from. What a great heritage we have. And I want them to continue in this wonderful culture that we have as Chickasaws, and the things that Chickasaw Nation has provided for us as well as our grandchildren. We're just blessed to be Chickasaws, and I want them to always feel blessed to be a Chickasaw child. And that's the heritage that I want my grandson and granddaughter to always remember, how blessed they are to be Chickasaws.
I just want my kids to, like she said, remember their roots, because I think that's really important.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know, where they come from or whatever, but I think it's really important that we teach them, that they need to.
Yes, and to
keep it,
carry
yeah.
on that heritage.
That's right.
To carry it on into the
Because we
next
are losing
generation.
it. And it's just not knowing that, and it's also your songs too. Even though Chickasaw people are sharing songs with the Choctaw people too, I remember that the Chickasaw and Choctaw were brothers.
Absolutely.
They were brothers, and it made all this possible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for sharing. I'm very grateful. Chukmashki.